Hi, this is Michael from Coach Potatoes. Today I'm going to talk you through the Johari Window model. It's a model that I use on a regular basis in leadership development programs that we run, and also in one-to-one coaching with very senior leaders that I work with. And it was a model that was devised in the 1950s by two American psychologists. One was called Joe, one was called Harry. So as you can see, that's where the name came from, the Johari Window. And what they were looking at with this model was how do people build up effective relationships with each other? How do leaders in particular build relationships where they can exert great influence over other people and they have a bigger impact than other leaders? And what the model basically consists of are four different windows. What they identified is we've all got these. We've all got a public self window, we've all got a blind self window, we've got an unknown self window and a private self window. And as I said, we've all got these four things. What they actually look like then, the public self window first. Public self window is what you know about yourself and what others know. And possibly the best example I can think of to give you for this is when you first start off in a new job, your public self window tends to be fairly small because while you know lots of things about yourself, obviously, the people that you're now working with, new to the company, they don't really understand you. They don't know what makes you tick. They haven't got much knowledge of your background, etc. So understandably, your public self window is fairly small. And as you embed yourself into the organisation that you're now working for, your public self window gradually grows as a result of people getting to find out more about you, etc. The second window is the blind self window. And this is what others know about you that you're not aware of. And again, an example I can think of for this was David Beckham, actually, when he played for Manchester United. Whenever he was interviewed, you could count, it used to be a competition actually, to count how many times he actually said like during the course of his interviews. And I don't think he was actually aware of how often he said it. And it was only when it was pointed out to him, I think, and you see him in later interviews in his current life, for example, he doesn't use the word like as much as he did. And that's an example of somebody behaving in a way that could possibly be detrimental to them, but they're not aware of it. But other people do see it, and that's where the blind self aspect of the Johari window comes into play. The third one is the unknown self. And this is what you don't know about yourself and others don't know either. It's like your hidden potential, if you like. There are certain areas in your life where you've not really experimented, you've not taken risks, for example, and you've not really stretched yourself. So you're not really aware of whether you're capable of doing something or not because you've not really tried it, if you like. The final window is the private self window. And this is the stuff that you know about yourself that you don't tend to share with others. And as I said, we've all got these four windows. And what Joe and Harry then did is they looked at, okay, we've got these four windows, the public, the blind, the unknown, and the private self. What do the best leaders do in terms of this model? What they analysed and what they researched, what they found was that the most successful leaders, the ones that had the biggest impact on those around them, the ones that developed the strongest levels of trust with their people, the ones that had the greatest influence on others, had a bigger public self window than the average. Now, if that's the goal, to increase your impact at work and to increase your ability to influence others and to get more people to follow you, etc., the goal then is to increase the size of your public self window. And the way to do that is to increase the other three windows. So what we're going to look at now is how do we go about reducing the size of the blind self window, the unknown self window, and the private self window. So how do we decrease the size of our blind self window to kick off with? Remember, this is about you behaving in particular ways that you're not aware of. It can be good things as well as bad things. It can be things that you do really well, but you're not actually aware of the impact that you have on other people. And the best way to find out exactly what you do that you're not aware of is to ask for feedback. And one of the easiest ways to do this, I've found when I've been working with people, is to get them to ask 5 or 6 people whose opinions they really value and trust, and ask them a fairly simple question along the lines of, what do you think I should start doing? What do you think I should stop doing? And what should I continue doing? That gives them a fairly quick snapshot of the kind of behaviours that are good for them and the kind of behaviours that they need to adapt and possibly change. So that's stop, start and continue. You can go the whole hog and you can have a 360-degree feedback session with people, and I quite often use those in one-to-one sessions, for example, because it gives a really clear picture of how they actually are perceived by the population in general that they work with. And what we're talking about here at the end of the day is increasing our self-awareness. The greater this self-awareness, the more influence we can have on the behaviours that are actually going to be the most conducive to producing the results that we need. The unknown self. How do we decrease the size of our unknown self window? As I said before, the unknown self is what you don't know about yourself and other people don't know either. And what you need to do in order to decrease the size of your unknown self window is to stretch yourself. It's to put yourself in situations that you're not familiar with, where you need to actually try new skills, to develop new skills, to explore new areas. And doing this enables you to find out just how much potential you have got and the best way to actually develop it. The final window, as I mentioned before, is a private self window. This is what you know about yourself, but you don't tend to share with other people. So what we need to think about is, what do we tend to hide away in our private self window? And there's a whole host of different areas that we can hide away. Some people will recognize that they do hide these things. I'm going to list in a few seconds away. Other people are more willing to share it. And what we've got to ask ourselves is, why do we tend to hide these things away? The kind of things I've discovered people tend to hide away are our failures, our weaknesses, our mistakes, our fears, our emotions, our strengths, our hopes, our dreams, our successes, our motivations, our values, our beliefs, and our passion for what we do. And when you think about it, when you tend to share these things with people, people tend to share back with you. Now, what I'm not suggesting is that as soon as you finish watching this video, you get a pen and paper out and write down as many failures, weaknesses, mistakes and fears that you've got, and then send this out to everybody that you work with and ask them to circulate it as widely as possible in the business. What I am saying is, the more of this stuff you tend to share with people, the more you demonstrate that you're a human being, basically, that you are fallible, you're not perfect, you don't expect other people to be perfect. And when you think about your strongest relationships, the ones you have with your best friends, how many of these things do you tend to share with them? How many of these things do your best friends know about you? And equally, how many of these things do you tend to know about your best friends as well? And the question to ask yourself then is, what's the level of trust like in those relationships? It tends to be really strong. And what we're saying is, by sharing more of your private self, by putting yourself into positions where you can stretch yourself and test your potential, and by asking for feedback on a regular basis, you can increase the size of your public self window. And to have the greatest influence and impact, we need to share more of what drives and motivates us. This helps others understand us and builds trust in the relationship. And that's the way that we exert greater influence over others and build up stronger relationships with those around us. I hope you found today useful. You'll find our Twitter account at Coach Potatoes, and our website is thecoachbusiness.com, and we will be producing more of these videos as time goes by, so just check in on our YouTube channel as well, Coach Potatoes, on a regular basis. Thank you very much.